turn the page.
This past week, we saw the Taliban take over Afghanistan. I think I've seen that movie before.
I did too.
And the first thing they did was disarm the population because, according to the Taliban, quote, they can now feel safe and no longer need personal protection. Let's talk about it.
But first, PRMI Mortgage, folks. PrimeRes.com/Alpine. Are you in the military? Are you looking for help with a VA loan? Or if you're just looking to buy, refi, or just consider a reverse mortgage, call our local mortgage guy that you can trust, Chris Wiley at PRMI Mortgage. For nearly 25 years, Chris has been helping local San Diegans with all their mortgage needs. Give Chris Wiley a call at 619-722-1303 or just go to primeres.com/Alpine. All right, Joe, it's all yours.
That's all mine. You know, it's interesting. I hadn't seen that until I took a look at this. From Reuters, though, that comment by the Taliban official.
I hadn't either.
Because that's a familiar, we've heard that before, right? You don't need guns. You're safe now. We're here.
That's weird that there's a Taliban official. I didn't realize they were that organized.
They even have their own Twitter.
I know, they're on Twitter. Trump's not on Twitter.
No,
the Taliban's on
the
Twitter.
Taliban is because they're more honest and straightforward.
They're within the community standards.
Yes.
The Taliban.
The Taliban. Yes. My goodness.
The ones that aren't beating Americans and keeping people from the airport.
No. They're not beating the Americans. They just show the passport. the sea opens up like the Red Sea, and then they just go right straight to the gate and get on the plane.
Their tweets are very polite.
They are.
There you go. It'll be very interesting to see what.
Have you been following this pretty closely?
Yes, a little bit. Not close enough to see the Reuters report, but yeah.
Yeah, you and me both. I thought I was
aside
being
from
pretty
that.
good, too.
Well, I think in general, I think a couple things can be true. Number one, it was time to leave Afghanistan.
Without a doubt.
Well, hold that thought because I'll talk to you about that one.
All right.
Go ahead.
No. Well, all right. Well, so I think what I'm about to say, number one and number two can be true side by side. Number one, it was time to leave Afghanistan. Number two, the way Biden left Afghanistan was a complete and total disaster, failure of epic proportions.
But he was trying to fulfill a campaign promise, and that I know, but that was to get the military out of Afghanistan, and that's what he tried to do. He just did it in the wrong order.
Did it all wrong.
Totally. Yeah, because the last couple of presidents have said that. That was one of Trump's goals, was to get out of there completely. And President Obama wanted to do the same thing.
But don't you think those military advisors must have told him, say, sir?
They say they did.
We need to leave the military to last.
Well, see, and that's the thing, because Michael's point, his first point, where you were saying that it was time to get out of there, and I would have agreed with that completely up until a couple of days ago. And what I didn't realize was that, okay, we were there, but we had, they say, about 2,500 soldiers or something like that there that were mostly non-combatant type soldiers. I mean, I'm sure there were special forces people doing different things, but for the most part, the regular soldiers were training and advising and assisting like that.
Right.
And we had not had a casualty there in 18 months.
Right.
I think, and I wanted to look it up because I wrote about this last week. Because I was telling you guys I'm publishing on Substack nowadays. So at getagrip.substack.com. So what I'm doing is writing more stuff. So I'm putting the Second Amendment stuff on there, but I'm also writing other stuff that's not not appropriate for our site. So I stick it up there too. Mm-hmm. But I was writing about will this impact Joe Biden and the presidency? And one of the things that I wanted to look up, and I didn't get around to it, but I know we lose soldiers in training accidents every year. And just because of the nature of the stuff they do, it's dangerous, and the training is dangerous. And I don't know, I didn't get to see what the number is, but I'm sure it's bigger than one every 18 months. And what I was, the thing that made me think about this was, leaving a force there of 2,500 mostly non-combatant people is not that unreasonable if it helps that Taliban army keep everything under control, or that government stay under control there. Because we keep, I don't know how many troops we have in South Korea, which kind of keeps South Korea together. We do the same thing in Germany. So it's not so bad to have troops there. It's bad if the troops were in combat the whole time.
The problem there is it would have been fine if that military base was still there and intact.
Well, and that's the second part of it. Okay, if you are going to pull them out, okay, at least pull them out because we have 15,000 Americans or so unaccounted for over there. I think that was
I've heard as high as 40.
Yeah, it could be. Well, plus not only the Americans, but everybody that supported the Americans, the Afghans,
and they're all over the country. They're not just by the airport,
right? So by leaving, there's not a good way, even if the administration now decided, okay, we need to go back in and help these people, which doesn't sound like they're doing.
They don't know where they're at.
There's no good way to do it. And so
that doesn't make any sense to me. It literally doesn't make any. There's something we're missing.
They're not telling us.
There's some way we're misunderstanding a story or a headline. There are 15,000 Americans in Afghanistan. We don't know where we are or where they are, and we can't get them.
I watched
on the surface
2 press events. Both Milley and Kirby said specifically, we don't know how many, and we do not know where they're at.
I don't know how many people need to get fired if that's real, but a lot. I mean, truly,
there's a lot of people that need to get fired or resign.
If it means what it sounds like on the surface, that there are 15,000 Americans in Afghanistan and we don't know where they are and we don't know how to get them out. There's no end to the amount of people in the Pentagon and the State Department that need to get fired, like ridden out of town on a rail. That doesn't make any sense. I mean, I've never served. I've never been in the military. I've never been to Afghanistan. I've never been in a war zone, unless you count Tijuana. So, but I can tell you, the stories I've heard and the things I've read. I mean, you were in the military.
Yeah.
You both were in the military.
Right.
Well, these aren't military people necessarily.
No,
I mean, there's support people. There's people over there that were working in schools. There were people that were doing all sorts of other kinds of work that are Americans.
But to get in there, who was in charge of Afghanistan? It was, the military. It was a military state, a U.S. military state. So what I'm saying is when when they knew exactly what equipment was in your boot locker, right?
Oh, yeah.
And when
they would come and inspect.
Yeah, you get inspected. There were lists upon lists. There were
soldiers, but they're not going to know that for civilians that are there doing
if they
things.
Don't, then they all need to get fired.
That's the
is
embassy.
What I'm saying.
See, now that's the embassy's fault, not the military's fault. Would you not agree?
Well, and I think the civilians too that are there take some responsibility.
Well, they
for
need
that
to register,
but they need to know what's happening. We didn't even tell our allies this was happening. I don't know if you were following that. France, Great Britain, none of those guys knew.
We didn't even tell the Afghans we were leaving.
Boris Johnson tried. It took him from all day Monday to try to get a hold of. This is the leader, the prime minister of
England
of Great Britain, and he tried all day Monday. Finally, made contact with Joe Biden Tuesday evening.
Joe was on vacation.
They said they didn't know. And something else I didn't realize either. There was it was a big NATO operation. They said there was over 7,000 NATO troops over there supporting what we were doing. So there were people from France, or troops from France, from England, from different countries, and they were kind of blindsided by this, and they were pretty upset. If you're watching, if you follow the news reports now, the stuff that you're hearing from the foreign newspapers, the English newspapers and stuff, is much more harsh and critical of what's going on here than our newspapers are.
Well, and the NATO troops were actually going out into the cities and bringing their people
That's
back.
what they said. That's what France and England said. Yeah, they were sending their troops out there to try to find people.
And we don't know where ours at.
And that's what I'm saying. And I don't know how many, they're maybe doing what they can do, and because I haven't seen numbers on how many of their people are out there.
The horse is already out of the barn.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Once they did this now, it's hard. Even if they decide they want to go back in, that's going to be a tough thing to do.
Well, and now they're planning next week to go fly in and bomb all the military we left there.
Wow, that's a great plan. Thanks for that.
You don't think they? First, we just told them, and just for picture. I don't know if you've seen the photos of all the
various equipment.
Yeah, but do you think they're just going to leave that there? I mean, the minute that the picture's over. Hey, here's yours. Here's yours. Here's yours.
I did read an article. You remember the Plot Against the President movie? There was a guy in there. His name was Kash Patel.
I watch him all the time. He's my new best friend.
He's very interesting. He's very intelligent. I read an article. He did an interview where he basically said, well, here was our plan, and they didn't follow it at all, and it would have solved all these problems.
Yeah.
So apparently the Trump administration left a plan that they feel would have been more successful.
Sure.
No matter what, it was, leaving Afghanistan was going to be a mess, but not a catastrophe on this level. So he made the case that, hey, look, our plan was to do this, this, and this in this order. It would have kept the airport intact. It would have done this.
But it had the word Trump across the top of the plan.
So they just ditched it.
They ditched it. I mean,
I'll bet you a part of Trump's plan wasn't Afghan civilians falling from cargo jets. I'll bet you that wasn't in that plan.
Well, they say, too, and, the Biden administration keeps quoting the, May 21st date, I think is when Trump said they'd like to be out. But Trump's date was conditional. It was, it was based on what's going on over there. So we would like to be out on the 21st if the Taliban has this and we have that. And, if those conditions weren't met, they probably weren't going to do it. But, getting out of there, it's one thing to get out of there and see, because they say we train the Afghan army and equip them based on how our army fights. Mm-hmm. So that means they have air support. That means they have intelligence. They have stuff to deal with. When we pulled all that, which is what happened, of course they collapsed. Yeah. And, Biden saying they just weren't willing to fight. And I think they said they've lost over, 50,000?
60,000.
Troops, 60,000 in the last 20 years fighting
So
Taliban.
all the allies and all of the military people that fought with these Afghans side by side are furious over that statement because President Biden made it sound like they just chickened out and ran.
Well, from what I've read, the military that in Afghanistan that the U.S. was training was horribly corrupt. They were, their middle management leaders were taking payoffs and leaving people out to drive. It was a disaster. It seems to me, and again, I'm not an expert, but when something like this happens, it seems to me you have one of two choices. And when I say something like this happens, it keeps happening. This keeps happening. Yeah. So it's going to happen again. It's happened multiple times. This isn't a one-off. But it seems like you have one of two choices. Bomb the heck out of them for 6 months and get out of there.
And be done with it.
Or know that, hey, we're going to be here for like 3 generations.
Well,
one of the two.
Who's the guy that both his legs were amputated?
Unfortunately, it's a lot of people.
Yeah, I know. Johnny, he's on Fox all the time. He said made it perfectly clear. If they have a rifle, you shoot them. End discussion. And then move out. He says you can't trust these people, no way, shape, or form, and we're letting them come to the United States totally unvetted. They're landing in military bases as we speak. Crazy.
Thanks for watching this clip from Gun Owners Radio. You can watch us live every Sunday from 4 to 6 p.m. California time, right here on our YouTube channel, or if you're in the San Diego area, you can listen to us on 1170 a.m. We're also available on your favorite podcast platform for free. Don't forget to like and subscribe so that you can help restore and protect the Second Amendment, not just in California, but across the country.